Hi everyone and welcome back to FTT Lending 3.0. I'm joined by Nick Jones, who's co-founder and CEO of Zumo. Hi Nick, how
Hi
are you
there.
doing?
Good to meet you.
Good. So shall we kick off with you telling us a bit about yourself and your focus at Zumo?
Yeah, sure. As you mentioned, I'm the CEO and one of the two founders. We've been trading since 2017, and I guess what's new and most exciting for us is we've built a pretty robust consumer business in the UK. We attained our crypto assets registration with the FCA at the tail end of last year. And we are making a move into this embedded finance space, basically rolling out our stack to other fintechs and banks so they can offer their customers safe, secure access to crypto assets. There's really incredible demand in the market at the moment. I think we're at that point where crypto's crossing over into the mainstream, and what fintechs and banks want is a de-risked way of offering that to their customers. And because we've been through the many hoops of building a compliant and a highly secure solution, we're going to be able to take those fintechs on that journey, probably starting with something quite simple, a simple kind of giving their customers exposure to some of the main crypto assets, but we can take them on the same journey we've been on. So introducing yielding products, introducing the ability to go on chain and interact with Web3. But people want to start fairly small, but it's really interesting steps. Because certainly when we started the business in November 2017, um, it was not on the radar of any bank. Definitely not at that time. So it's incredible, really, particularly over the last 18 months, this real acceleration of acceptance of the space. So yeah, it's very exciting. We're really thrilled to be launching that at the moment.
And I mean, leading from that then, and as we're seeing that acceleration, are we reaching the moment where crypto is perhaps going mainstream, or are we still kind of in the run up to that?
No, I mean, I think it is. I mean, look, it's if you compare it to the traditional financial services sector, it's still tiny. It's still tiny, but the momentum of we're on that the hockey stick part of the bell curve at the moment. It's really, really, really flying. And certainly in certain age groups and in certain markets globally, it has crossed over to the mainstream, and not all just in the Western world. Certainly emerging markets, massive adoption in places like Nigeria. Obviously, we've seen it in Central America, increasingly in Asia, as well as in kind of core markets in the UK, US, Germany. It's crossing over generationally. Millennials have been the kind of the cornerstone. But I think what's really interesting is I think millennials have largely treated crypto as a kind of a speculative asset, something fun to trade with, make some money on the side or lose some. That's okay for most people. But certainly with Gen Z, you're looking at a generation of people who might have most of their wealth in crypto, DeFi, blockchain-based assets because they're just not interested in the traditional system at all. They probably don't have a credit card. They probably just do BNPL instead of credit cards, and they have a bank account, but only as a means to pay for stuff. And that's not going anywhere. That's stuck. So it varies. It varies generationally, the sort of the level of acceptance, but certainly in that younger segment, I think it's the norm. But still, part of that crossing over into the mainstream is creating simple, safe, secure access that's not confusing. The space is still incredibly confusing. Far too many blockchains, far too many coins. Still loads of opportunities to lose lots of money very, very, very quickly. So we like to think we're part of a cohort of businesses that are about a more measured, kind of grown-up approach, giving consumers lots of choice, but choice where we've kind of weeded out some of the more weird and wonderful stuff. We want our consumers to be able to earn passive income, become wealthier, be happier, do more with their lives, not worry about whether they've invested in an altcoin that's going to go to zero tomorrow because someone told them they were going to make 1,000% the next day. So it's definitely we're on the cusp. I think we're on the cusp, but there's definitely a huge movement, and I think in 5 years' time we'll have most of the retail banks, if they still exist, will be offering the same kind of services that we do.
Yeah, it's certainly an exciting space to look at as it does start to go more mainstream. So I think looking slightly further ahead and at the next generation, what do you think is the most exciting or disruptive opportunity within the crypto lending space?
Yeah. So crypto lending is obviously massively disruptive. because at its core, it's going back to lending being peer to peer, so removal of the middleman. Um, and again, moving back to things like emerging markets where there's never really been bank borrowing, it's much more familiar people to borrow money from other people or people that you know. And obviously, with things like smart contracts, the blockchain allows you to have the same type of comfort borrowing from a stranger as you might have done previously from borrowing from a family member, because it's locked in as long as it's done in the right way. What I would say is, you know, to go into DeFi, to go on chain and go down the rabbit hole, is still pretty intimidating for most people. There's a very long acclimatization period and lots of noise, and again lots of opportunities to lose money, whilst there are opportunities to make lots of money as well. So I actually think probably within the lending space, it is this hybrid DeFi powered CeFi, if that's not too much jargon, but where a centralized, somebody like us, or a Binance or whoever it is offering a centralized way of you as a consumer to be able to access DeFi marketplaces and yielding and borrowing and savings, if you like, because there's one and the same. They're just two sides of the same marketplace. So chance to earn passive income in a fairly de-risked way, but also chances to borrow, either collateralized or uncollateralized, in a really fair and very, very quick way. And that happening through centralized platforms which are starting to have to show regulators that they're sensible businesses, that they do AML, they do checks to make sure you are who you say you are. And we're certainly making sure, in our case, that we're working with marketplaces that can really explain to us exactly how they're earning yield or allowing our customers to borrow against that yield. And so for me, it's this layer on top of the underlying marketplaces. Who for most people it's too complex. They don't have the time. They would be able to understand it, but you're going to have to spend a long time. And people don't. They would like to be able to borrow very cost effectively. They'd like to be able to save cost effectively. They probably don't really care too much how it works. So as long as you're, and that to me is the most exciting thing, and that's what's coming down the line. So yeah, it's another amazing layer in the blockchain space and the evolution of that space.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Well, thanks so much for joining us, and we're delighted to have you here at FTT Lending 3.0
Great, thank you,
for the rest of the day. So thanks very much, Nick.
thank you.